I showed up at Sugarlands with my life in a duffel bag, and my uniform still creased from the package. The barracks sat behind the visitor center, which was this low stone building that looked like it had been there since the park opened. Probably had. Everything in Gatlinburg felt old in a way that wasn't charming yet, just tired. The parking lot was mostly empty. March, so not quite tourist season. Good. My duffel was half open because the zipper had given up somewhere around Knoxville. I'd shoved my spare boots in there, and now the tongue of one stuck out like it was trying to escape. That was kind of how I felt too. I took the job because I wanted quiet. That's the short version. The long version involved a divorce that got messy enough that I couldn't stay in Chattanooga anymore. Couldn't keep running into Sarah at the grocery store or the gym or that coffee place on Market Street she claimed first. I didn't fight her on it. She got the apartment, the friends, the whole life we'd built. I got my truck and whatever fit in one duffel. Ranger work seemed right. Seasonal law enforcement in the Smokies. I'd done some training years back, enough to qualify, and they were hiring. The job listing said traffic control, trail checks, visitor assistance, paperwork, basic stuff. Nothing that followed you home. I needed that. The barracks door was unlocked. I pushed it open and the smell hit me first. Industrial cleaner and old coffee and something like mothballs. A narrow hallway stretched back with doors on either side. Linoleum floors, scuffed to hell. Fluorescent lights that buzzed just enough to notice. Nobody around. I set the duffel down and it slumped over, spilling a sock onto the floor. Great. Professional. You Gibson? I turned. A woman stood in the doorway behind me, blocking most of the light from outside. 5'7" or so, fit, dark hair pulled back tight. Her uniform looked like she ironed it every morning and probably had since the 90s. Ranger supervisor bars on the collar. Yeah, I said. Gordon Gibson. Lillian May. She didn't offer a hand. Just looked me over once, quick, the way you'd check a used car. You're late. I wasn't actually. I was 15 minutes early, but I didn't say that. Got here as fast as I could. She made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been nothing. Hard to tell. Then she stepped past me into the hallway, moving like she had a route planned and I was slightly in the way. Leave the bag, she said. I'll show you the station first. Gear issue, bunk assignment, then we'll get you on shift. Shift? Today? She stopped, turned halfway back. Her expression didn't change, but I got the feeling I'd said something dumb. You're law enforcement seasonal, she said. We're understaffed until May. You start today. Right, yeah, that's fine. It was fine. I didn't have anywhere else to be. She kept walking and I followed, leaving the duffel and the sad sock behind. The hallway opened into a bigger room, combination office and break area, a couple desks shoved against the walls, filing cabinets, a coffee maker that looked like it predated me, a corkboard covered in maps and bulletins and a faded poster about bear safety. One window faced the parking lot. The blinds were half shut. Lillian moved to the nearest desk and pulled open a drawer without looking, like she'd done it 1,000 times. Probably had. She lifted out a duty belt, a radio, a can of pepper spray, a flashlight. Set them on the desk in a row. You'll get a vehicle assignment tomorrow, she said. Tonight you're riding with Sims. He'll show you the routes, the radio zones, how we log everything. Sims? Backcountry ranger. He's been here 2 seasons, knows the area. She said it flat, like she was reading from a manual. I got the sense Lillian May didn't waste words on things that didn't need them. Okay. Your bunk's the 3rd door on the left. You've got a roommate, but he's off rotation till Wednesday. Means you get the place to yourself for now. She pushed the gear toward me. Get this sorted and be back here by 1800. Sims runs evening patrols and he doesn't wait. 1800. 6 p.m. I checked my watch. Cheap Timex I'd bought at Walmart after Sarah kept the nice one, and it was just past 2. Got it. Lillian looked at me again, that same quick assessment. I didn't know what she was looking for, didn't know if I passed. You have any questions? Ask Sims, she said. He'll get you up to speed. Then she walked out. Just like that. Didn't wait for me to confirm or thank her or anything. I heard her boots on the linoleum, then the outside door opening and closing. I stood there holding the pepper spray and feeling like I'd just been processed. The bunk room was small. 2 beds, 2 lockers, 1 window with curtains that didn't quite close. The mattress on the left looked newer, so I took the right. Fair's fair. I dropped my duffel on the bed and started unpacking, which didn't take long. 3 uniforms, 2 pairs of boots, a week's worth of regular clothes, a toothbrush, a razor, a phone charger. That was it. I'd left almost everything else in Chattanooga. Easier that way. The duty belt took me a minute to figure out. I hadn't worn one since the academy, and that had been years ago. The pepper spray clipped on the right, flashlight on the left, radio holster in back. I didn't have cuffs yet. Probably get those later. I put it on and adjusted the fit, checking myself in the mirror stuck to the inside of the locker door. I looked like a ranger. Felt weird. I killed the rest of the afternoon reading through a binder someone had left on the desk in the common room. Standard operating procedures, maps of the park, a list of common violations and how to cite them. Illegal camping, unleashed dogs, alcohol in day-use areas, feeding wildlife. It was all pretty straightforward. I figured I could handle it. At 6, a truck pulled up outside. I grabbed my radio and the flashlight and headed out. The truck was a white Park Service pickup, a little beat up, mud caked on the wheel wells. A guy leaned against the driver's door, arms crossed, watching me come down the steps. Stephen Sims, I guessed. He was tall, taller than me by an inch, rangy build, sandy blonde hair cut military short, gray-blue eyes that didn't blink much. His uniform looked almost new, even though Lillian said he'd been here 2 seasons. There was a scar on his chin, faint and old. Gibson? Yeah. Get in. I got in. He didn't say anything else until we were on the road, heading west out of the visitor center lot and onto Little River Road. The sun was starting to drop behind the ridgeline, and the light came through the trees in long slants, hitting the windshield every few seconds. It would have been pretty if I'd been in the mood for pretty. You done patrol before? Sims asked. Some. Not in a park. Where? Chattanooga, security work mostly. He nodded. Didn't ask why I left. I appreciated that. Little River Road's one of the main routes, he said. Runs along the river for about 20 miles, connects to Cades Cove and Townsend. Popular with tourists. Popular with idiots. Idiots? People who stop in the middle of the road to take pictures. People who hike past the closure signs because they think rules don't apply. People who try to swim in the river and get swept downstream. He said it all in the same flat tone, like he was listing groceries. We spend most of our time pulling them out. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just watched the road. Radio check, Sims said suddenly. He pulled his radio off his belt and keyed it. Dispatch, this is Ranger Sims with Gibson on Little River Road starting evening patrol. The radio crackled. A woman's voice came through, calm and clipped. Copy, Sims. Check in at 2100. Copy. He clipped the radio back and glanced at me. You try. I pulled mine off and pressed the button. Dispatch. This is Ranger Gibson. Radio check. Static. Then, copy, Gibson. Welcome to Sugarlands. Sims nodded. Good enough. We drove for a while without talking. The road curved and climbed, following the river below. I could hear it through the open window, that constant rush of water over rocks. There were pullouts every half mile or so, most of them empty. A couple had cars parked, people standing around with cameras or sitting on the hoods eating sandwiches. Dead zones, Sims said, pointing ahead where the road dipped into a hollow. Radio cuts out in some of the valleys. You need to know where they are so you don't call for backup and get nothing. How many? 5 on this route. I'll show you. He did. We stopped at each one, and he made me try the radio, and sure enough, 3 of them came back with nothing but static. He had me mark them on a map he kept in the glove box, little X's in pencil that were already half rubbed out from other hands. It was past 7 when he pulled into a turnout near a trailhead. The sign said, Laurel Falls, 2.6 miles. There was a chain across the trail and a smaller sign zip-tied to it, closed for maintenance. People ignore this? I asked. Every day. Why close it? Rock slide last month. Part of the trail washed out. Crew's supposed to fix it next week. He killed the engine and looked at me. You see someone pass the chain, you bring them back. You don't ask if they saw the sign. You don't explain why it's closed. You just tell them it's closed and they need to leave. Understand? Yeah. You sure? I looked at him. His expression hadn't changed. Still flat, still watching. Yeah, I said again. Good. He got out of the truck. I followed. We walked up to the chain and he tested it, pulling on the links to make sure it was secure. Then he looked down the trail, hands on his hips like he was waiting for something. You ever have someone not listen? I asked. All the time. What do? Cite them if they're stupid about it. Escort them out if they're not. He turned back to me. You follow procedure, Gibson. Every time. You don't improvise. You don't try to be nice. You follow the rules and you make them follow the rules. That's the job. Got it. Do you? There it was again. That edge. Like he was testing me. Yeah, I said. I got it. He stared at me for a second longer, then nodded. Let's head back. We got back in the truck and he started the drive down, slower this time, his eyes scanning the road and the pullouts. I tried to do the same, watching for people doing dumb things, I guessed. We didn't see any. It was almost dark when he pulled into a gravel lot near Metcalf Bottoms. He cut the engine and just sat there, hands on the wheel. One more thing, he said. I waited. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a card. Not a business card. Something else. It was about the size of an index card, bent at the corners with handwriting on it. He held it out. I took it. The light was bad, but I could just make out the words. Rules, it said at the top. Then a list. Never follow voices off trail. Never go back for something you dropped after dark. If someone asks you to check on a hiker who needs help, confirm with dispatch first. If your radio calls your name and you didn't key it, don't answer. There were more, but I stopped reading. I looked up at Sims. What is this? Unofficial rules, he said. The ones they don't put in the manual. This a joke? No. He said it so flat I almost believed him. Almost. Come on, I said. This is for the new guy, right? Hayes the rookie? It's for rangers who want to stay alive. I stared at him. He stared back. Didn't blink. Didn't smile. Didn't do anything that would have told me he was messing with me. You're serious, I said. Yeah. I looked back at the card. The handwriting was cramped and uneven, like someone had written it in a hurry, or in the dark. Where'd you get this? Someone gave it to me my first week. I'm giving it to you. Why? Because the park's not what you think it is. He took the keys out of the ignition and opened his door. Then he paused, looking back at me. You follow those, he said, and you follow procedure, you'll be fine. You go rogue, you won't. Then he got out and walked toward the station. I sat there holding the card, reading it again in the last of the light. It felt like a dare. Like he just handed me a test I didn't know I was taking. The card felt cheap. Regular index card stock, probably from an office supply closet. Someone had folded it in half at some point, and the crease was soft from being opened and closed. I tilted it toward the dome light. The handwriting was different styles, like multiple people had added to it over time. Some lines were in blue ink, some in black. One was pencil. The heading said Rules in block letters, underlined twice. Below that, 5 numbered lines. Sims sat with his hands still on the wheel. He wasn't watching me, just staring out the windshield at the empty lot and the trees going dark beyond it. I read the first rule. 1. Do not answer Channel 3 after 2311. Military time, 11:11 at night. 2. Do not step into fog that smells like copper or metal. I blinked. Read it again. Same words. 3. If you find white river stones stacked in a cairn, leave 1 stone and walk away. Do not rebuild it. 4. Do not follow bell sounds off trail, even if dispatch reports a lost dog or livestock. 5. If you find a trail sign with your own handwriting on it, report immediately to dispatch and go directly to a staffed building. Do not investigate. I looked up. Sims was still staring forward. This a joke? I said. No. Hazing then? No. I waited for him to crack a smile or admit it was some kind of tradition to mess with new hires. He didn't move. These don't make sense, I said. They don't have to make sense. His voice was flat, matter of fact. You follow them anyway. Who wrote this? Different people. When? Over time. That was all he gave me. I looked back down at the card. The ink on Rule 4 was faded, older. Rule 5 looked newer. The pencil on Rule 3 had smudged a little at the edge. What happens if I don't follow them? I asked. Sims turned his head, looked at me straight on for the first time since handing me the card. His eyes were that flat gray blue that doesn't give anything away. You probably won't get a chance to find out twice. The air in the truck felt different. Colder maybe, or just smaller. Someone gave me this card my first week, Sims said. I'm giving it to you now. You keep it. You follow procedure, and you follow these rules, and you'll be fine. What if I want to know why? You don't. He turned back to the windshield. You don't ask why. You just do it. I read the list again. Channel 3 was our standard patrol frequency. We'd been using it all night. The fog thing sounded insane. Stacked stones were trail markers, cairns. People built them all the time, even though they weren't supposed to. Bells I could maybe understand if it was some weird poacher thing, but dispatch wouldn't report livestock in a national park. And my own handwriting on a sign didn't even make sense as a concept. This is, I started, real. Sims cut me off. It's real. I don't care if you believe it right now. You will. He reached over and tapped the card with one finger. Keep it on you. Duty belt, wallet, somewhere you'll have it. Read it once a week until you've got it memorized. I folded the card and slipped it into my shirt pocket. It sat there against my chest, stiff and strange. What's special about 1111? I asked. Sims started the engine. Nothing, until it is. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. He shifted into reverse and backed out of the spot. I told you what you need to know. The rest is just waiting to see if you're smart enough to listen. We drove back toward Sugarlands in silence. The road was fully dark now, just our headlights cutting through and the yellow line rolling past. I kept my hand on my pocket, could feel the card's edge through the fabric. When we pulled into the station lot, Sims put the truck in park but left it running. You start solo patrol Thursday, he said. Day shift first. You'll do fine if you don't overthink it. And if something happens, follow procedure, then follow the card. He looked at me again, that same flat stare. In that order. Procedure first, always. but if procedure doesn't cover it, the card does. I wanted to ask what kind of situation procedure wouldn't cover. Didn't. Get some sleep, Sims said. I climbed out. He drove off before I even closed the door all the way. Inside the barracks, I sat on my bunk with the card in my hand. Read it 3 more times. Tried to find the logic in it. Couldn't. I put it in my wallet behind my driver's license. Figured that was close enough. 2 nights later, I was in my room organizing my duty belt. My roommate still wasn't back. Wednesday had come and gone, and his bunk stayed empty. I didn't mind. Gave me space to spread out. I'd done 1 solo day shift already. Thursday, like Sims said. Drove the Little River Road route, checked turnouts, told 6 people their dog needed a leash, and watched 4 cars stop in the middle of the road to take pictures of nothing. Standard stuff. No weird fog, no bells, no stacked white rocks, no voices on Channel 3 after 11:11, because I'd been back at the barracks by 9:30 and asleep by 10. I was pulling my flashlight off the belt to check the batteries when the radio hissed. It was sitting on my bed. I'd left it on. Force of habit from the first night with Sims. Always keep the radio on so you know what's happening. The static settled and a voice came through. "Gibson, this is May. Do you copy?" Lillian's voice. Calm, professional. Same tone she used for everything. I reached for the radio, stopped, looked at my watch. 11:13. My hand hovered over the radio. The card was in my wallet on the desk. I didn't need to check it. I'd read it enough times. Do not answer Channel 3 after 23:11. "Gibson, this is May." The voice came again. Exactly the same. Not annoyed, not urgent, just steady. "I need you to meet me at Metcalf Bottoms. Do you copy?" Metcalf Bottoms, where Sims had given me the card. I pulled my hand back. The radio hissed again. "Gibson, Metcalf Bottoms. Acknowledge, please." It sounded right. It sounded exactly like Lillian, that clipped, no-nonsense delivery she used for everything. I'd only heard her voice a handful of times, but it matched. The phrasing matched. I stared at the radio. 11:13. 2 minutes past the cutoff. "Gibson, do you copy?" My heartbeat picked up. Not panic. Just that low-level alarm that kicks in when something's wrong, but you can't name it yet. The card said, "Don't answer." Didn't say why. Didn't say what happens if you do. Sims had looked me dead in the eye and said I probably wouldn't get a chance to find out twice. I stood up, grabbed my wallet and keys, left the radio on the bed, still hissing static between transmissions. "Gibson, Metcalf Bottoms. Respond, please." I walked out of the room and down the hall. The barracks were empty, just me and the smell of industrial cleaner and old coffee. I pushed through the front door into the parking lot. My truck was parked 3 spots down. I climbed in, started the engine, and sat there with my hands on the wheel, just like Sims had done. The smart thing was probably to ignore it, go back inside, turn the radio off, pretend I'd been asleep. But if it really was Lillian, if she really needed me at Metcalf Bottoms and I just didn't show, that was a problem. That was insubordination, maybe. At minimum, it was a conversation I didn't want to have. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Never had signal out here. The office might. Landline, at least. I drove the 100 yards to the main ranger station and parked under the light by the front entrance. The visitor center was dark, but the office wing had 1 light on in a back window. Dispatch, probably. I tried the front door. Locked. Walked around to the side entrance rangers used. Locked too. I knocked. Waited. Knocked again. Nothing. Stood there trying to decide what to do. If Lillian was really at Metcalf Bottoms waiting for me, she'd be pissed I wasn't answering. If she wasn't, if that voice wasn't her, then I'd just save myself from whatever the card was warning about. No way to know which. I got back in my truck and drove. Not toward Metcalf Bottoms, toward Gatlinburg. Lights sounded good. People sounded better. The card didn't say I couldn't leave. Just said don't answer. The road wound down through dark trees and past closed pullouts. I passed the turnoff for Metcalf Bottoms and kept going. Didn't slow down. Didn't look. Gatlinburg started as scattered gas stations and motels, then thickened into the main strip with its neon and tourist traps and traffic lights. I pulled into a pilot station, parked under the brightest light I could find, and sat there with the engine running. 11:28. I waited until midnight. Then I drove back. I pulled into Sugarlands around 12:15. The main station had one light on in the front office. I parked under the entrance light again and went in through the ranger door this time. It was unlocked. Lillian was at the desk. She had a stack of paperwork spread out in front of her and a pen in her hand. She looked up when I came in and her expression didn't change. Just tired. Normal tired. "Gibson," she said. "Something wrong?" I stopped in the doorway. My radio was still back at the barracks, probably still transmitting to an empty room. I hadn't wanted to touch it. "I got a call on Channel 3, I said, "about 20 minutes ago. Someone using your name asked me to meet at Metcalf Bottoms." Lillian set the pen down. "Channel 3? Yes, ma'am." She leaned back in her chair. "I haven't left this building since 1800. Been doing incident reports all night." She gestured at the paperwork. "And I don't use Channel 3. It interferes with the volunteer fire frequencies. We stopped using it 2 years ago." I nodded. That was pretty much what I'd figured, but hearing it confirmed made my shoulders drop a little. "Okay. You didn't go, did you?" "No, ma'am." "Good." She picked up the pen again and tapped it against the desk twice. "Did you answer?" "No." She watched me for a second, then nodded. "All right, go back to the barracks. Get some sleep. We'll talk about it in the morning if you need to." I didn't really need to. I just needed to know she'd been here the whole time, and now I knew. "Yes, ma'am." I turned to leave, and that's when Sims came in through the same door I'd used. He looked irritated, not angry, just annoyed, the way someone looks when they have to deal with something they didn't want to deal with. He saw me first, then Lillian. "He came here?" Lillian's face didn't move. "He reported a radio call." Sims looked at me. "Channel 3. "Yeah." He made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "And you didn't answer?" "No. But you also didn't just stay put, did you?" He crossed his arms. "You came all the way here to check." I didn't say anything. He wasn't wrong. Sims shook his head. "The rule is, don't answer. That's it. That's the whole thing. You don't answer, nothing happens. It only works if you respond." I didn't respond. "No, but you didn't ignore it either." He stepped closer, still with his arms crossed. "You got spooked. You left the barracks, drove here, went looking for confirmation. That's not following the rule. That's half following it." Lillian cut in. "He didn't go to Metcalf Bottoms. He came here. That's the right call." "It's a nervous call," Sims said. He was looking at me, not her. "The rule works because you treat it like static. You hear it, you don't react. It stops. But if you start second-guessing every weird transmission, checking in, making it a whole thing, then you're already responding. You're giving it attention." I kept my mouth shut. He was framing this whole thing like some kind of discipline test, like I'd failed by being cautious. But his tone had an edge to it that didn't quite match the words. He sounded irritated, sure, but also a little rattled. Just a little. "Next time," Sims said, "you hear something after 23:11, you turn the radio off. You go to sleep. You don't drive around looking for answers. Got it?" "Got it." He dropped his arms. "Good. Go back. I'll do a sweep to make sure nobody's actually out there filing a real report." Lillian looked at him. "You don't need to do that. I'm doing it anyway. He walked past me toward the door. Gibson, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him. I looked at Lillian. She'd already gone back to her paperwork. Go on, she said without looking up. He's not wrong about the sleep part. I left. The next morning I was up at 6:30. I'd slept maybe 4 hours, all of it shallow. My roommate still hadn't shown up. I made coffee in the break room using the ancient machine that sputtered and hissed, then sat at one of the desks and drank it black. Sims didn't come by. Lillian showed up around 7:15 and told me I was on day shift again, same route, and to check in at the trailheads for any overnight issues. I was halfway through my second cup when Julie Bradley came in through the front. She had a guy with her, stocky and solid-looking, wearing trail crew gear. Both of them had that specific kind of tired that comes from being outside since dawn. Julie saw Lillian first. We need to report something. Lillian looked up. Go ahead. There's a closure sign on West Prong Trail, Julie said. Fresh, nailed up sometime in the last day or two. None of us put it there. The guy with her nodded. It's not on the schedule. We checked. Lillian frowned. Maintenance didn't notify you? No, ma'am, Julie said. And it's not a standard sign. Somebody made it by hand. Plywood, nails, marker. Lillian looked at me. Gibson, go with them. Take a look. I set the coffee down. Yes, ma'am. Julie glanced at me, then back at Lillian. You want us to pull it down? Not yet, Lillian said. Let Gibson see it first. If it's unofficial, he'll document it, and we'll coordinate removal. The guy, Sawyer, I learned in the truck, rode in the back of my patrol pickup. Julie sat up front and directed me west on Little River Road, then onto a service access road I hadn't been on yet. It was gravel, narrow, and overgrown on both sides. We drove maybe 10 minutes before she told me to stop. The trailhead wasn't marked, just a gap in the trees and a pair of wooden posts on either side of the path. And between the posts, nailed up with 4 thick nails, was a plywood sign. I got out. Julie and Sawyer followed. The sign was about 2 feet wide and maybe 18 inches tall. Somebody had painted it white first, then used a thick black marker to write on it. The letters were blocky, careful, all caps. It said, Trail closed, Gordon Gibson, March 27th. That was today's date, and that was my handwriting. I stood there looking at it. My chest went cold, but I didn't move, didn't touch it. Julie was next to me. You know anything about this? No. Sawyer walked closer and tapped one of the nails with his knuckle. Somebody went to the trouble. It's solid. I pulled the card out of my wallet. My hands were steady, which surprised me a little. I unfolded it and read Rule 5 again, even though I'd already memorized it. If you find a trail sign with your own handwriting, report it to dispatch immediately. Go directly to a staffed building. Do not investigate. Do not remove it. Julie was watching me. What's that? Instructions, I said. I folded the card and put it back. We need to go back. I need to report this. Sawyer frowned. You want us to leave it? Yeah. It's not official, Julie said. People are going to see it and think the trail's closed. I know. I looked at her. But I'm not touching it. I need to report it first. That's procedure. That wasn't exactly true. Procedure would probably say to remove unauthorized signage and file a report after. But the card said go directly back, and I was following the card. Julie looked at Sawyer. He shrugged. All right, she said. We'll wait here. You go report it, then we'll pull it down together. Okay. I got back in the truck and drove straight to Sugarlands. Lillian was still in the office. I told her what I'd seen, exactly as it was. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she picked up the desk phone and dialed a number from memory. Brett, it's Lillian May at Sugarlands. I need maintenance to pull an unauthorized sign from West Prong Trail access. Today, if possible. She listened. No, it's not standard. Somebody put it up without coordination. I've got a ranger on site who can meet your tech. Another pause. Thanks. Call me back with an ETA. She hung up and looked at me. Sit tight. Maintenance will handle it. I sat in one of the chairs by the wall. My hands were still steady. I didn't feel panic exactly. Just cold. Careful. Lillian went back to her paperwork. I waited. The call came back maybe 40 minutes later. Lillian answered, listened. Then her face changed. Not much, just a tightness around her mouth. You're sure, she said. Then, all right, thanks, River. She hung up and looked at me. Maintenance went to the site. River Tucker. He says there's no sign, just the posts. Nothing nailed to them. I stood up. It was there. I believe you, Lillian said, but it's not there now. I thought about that. Julie and Sawyer saw it too. I know. So where'd it go? Lillian set the phone down carefully. I don't know, Gibson. But if River says it's not there, then it's not there. He's been doing this for 20 years. He doesn't miss things. I didn't say anything. There wasn't much to say. The sign had been real, solid, nailed in with 4 nails that Sawyer had tapped with his knuckle. And now it was gone. Lillian looked at me for a long moment. You followed the card? Yes, ma'am. Good. Keep doing that. I nodded. She picked up her pen again. Go back on patrol. If anything else turns up, you report it immediately. Understood? Yes, ma'am. I left. My hands were still steady, but the cold feeling in my chest hadn't gone away. Sims got back to the station around the time I was finishing my report. I'd written everything down, the sign, the text, the date, the handwriting. Lillian had filed it under unauthorized postings and sent a copy to Brett in maintenance. Sims read it over my shoulder. Didn't ask permission. Just leaned in and scanned the whole thing. Pranksters, he said. I looked up at him. That's what this is, Sims continued. He tapped the paper. Someone saw your name on the roster. Tourists pull this kind of thing all the time. I said the sign had my handwriting. Close enough to pass, Sims said. People fake signatures. Not hard. Lillian was at her desk, doing something with a logbook. She didn't look up. I pointed out that River said the sign was gone when he got there. That wasn't tourist behavior. That was someone watching the trail and pulling it down the second we left. Sims shrugged. Proves my point. They saw you leave and took it down, probably laughing about it right now. The logic was almost reasonable. That bugged me more than if he'd just dismissed it outright. I asked why someone would bother. People get bored, Sims said. They think park rangers are easy targets. Make a weird sign, spook the new guy, take it down before anyone else sees it. Classic setup. Lillian finally looked up. River's been with us 20 years. If he says it wasn't there, it wasn't there. Right, Sims said, which means someone pulled it. Just a prank. I didn't say anything. The whole thing felt wrong, but I didn't have a better explanation. Sims leaned against the desk. You want to sit here and file reports, or you want to go up there and catch them? I asked what he meant. Evening patrol, Sims said. We hike the trail. If they're still around, we find them. If not, at least you see there's nothing weird about the area. Lillian said we didn't have authorization for a night hike on a closed access trail. It's not closed, Sims said. Just low traffic. And we're looking for whoever put up unauthorized signage. That's our job. Lillian's mouth tightened. She didn't argue, but she didn't agree either. Sims looked at me. You coming or not? I figured it was better than sitting around thinking about it. So I said, yeah. We left just after 7. The sun was still up, but dropping fast. Sims drove us back to the West Prong access in his patrol truck and parked at the trailhead. The posts were still there. No sign between them. just empty space and 4 nail holes. Sims got out and shouldered a small pack. I had my duty belt, radio, flashlight. He said we'd hike in a mile, sweep the area, hike back. Should take an hour, maybe less. I asked if we were expecting to find anyone. Probably not, Sims said. But if we do, we document it and escort them out. Standard. We started up the trail. It was narrow, overgrown in places, with roots crossing the path every few yards. The kind of trail that didn't see much maintenance because it didn't see much use. Trees pressed in on both sides. Oak, poplar, pine. Everything smelled like wet bark and old leaves. Sims walked ahead. Didn't talk much. Just kept a steady pace, scanning the brush on either side like he was looking for something specific. Half a mile in, I saw the stones. They were stacked beside the path on the left side. 5 of them. White river stones, smooth and round, balanced in a cairn about a foot tall. They were clean, dry. We'd had rain 2 nights ago and everything else was still damp, but these stones looked like someone had just placed them. I stopped walking. Sims kept going for a few steps, then turned back. "What?" I pointed. He looked at the stones, then he looked at me. "So?" I said they were stacked, white river stones, just like the card said. Sims walked back and crouched next to the cairn. He reached out like he was going to touch the top stone. "Don't," I said. He paused. "It's just rocks." I pulled the card from my wallet and read Rule 3 out loud. If you find white river stones stacked beside the trail, leave 1 stone and walk away. Do not rebuild the cairn. Do not take a picture. Sims stood up. "You're serious?" I said, "Yeah." "It's a cairn," Sims said. "Hikers build them all the time. It's trail graffiti." I said the rule was specific. White river stones, stacked, and these were dry. Sims stared at me for a long moment. Then he stepped forward and lifted his boot like he was going to kick the whole thing over. I grabbed his shoulder. "Leave 1. "This is superstition," Sims said. I didn't let go. The card said leave 1. So we leave 1. Sims lowered his boot. He looked annoyed, but he didn't push it. He reached down and carefully took the top 4 stones off the stack, setting them on the ground a few feet away. The bottom stone stayed in place. "Happy?" he said. I let go of his shoulder. "Yeah. This is why people don't last," Sims muttered. He started walking again. I followed. The single stone sat behind us, small and white against the dark trail. 10 minutes later, the fog started. It came in low, sliding between the trees in thin bands that didn't move like normal fog. It just appeared, hung there, and thickened. The air got colder. I could see my breath, and I smelled it. Copper, sharp and metallic like sucking on a penny. I stopped again. Sims was a few yards ahead, still walking. I said his name. He slowed but didn't stop. "What now?" I said there was fog, and it smelled like metal. Sims turned around. He looked at the fog, then at me. "It's just fog." Rule 2. Don't step into fog that smells like copper or metal. I stayed on the path, didn't move toward the edges where the fog was drifting. Sims watched me. Then he looked into the trees on the right side where the fog was heavier. His head tilted slightly like he was listening. I asked if he heard something. "No," Sims said, but he kept looking. The fog thickened. I couldn't see more than 20 feet in any direction now. The trees were just dark shapes. Sims was still staring into the brush, and I didn't like the way he was standing, loose, leaning forward slightly, like something was pulling him. Then the bell rang. Just once, clear and distant, coming from somewhere off trail to the right. It sounded like a handbell, the kind you'd use to call a dog. Sims straightened. My radio crackled. Cynthia's voice came through, calm and professional. "All units, be advised. Report of a lost Labrador, yellow, near Metcalf Bottoms area. Owner reports the dog was last seen heading west toward the ridgeline. Child with the owner is distressed, requesting any available units in the area to assist. Sims keyed his radio. Copy. We're on West Prong Trail, about a mile in. We can head that direction. I said his name again, louder this time. He looked at me. I said that was Rule 4. Don't follow bell sounds off trail, even if dispatch reports lost dogs. That's a real call, Sims said. You heard Cynthia. There's a kid involved. I said the rule was specific. Bells, dogs, livestock. Don't follow them. That's not superstition, that's negligence, Sims said. He started angling right, off the marked path, toward where the bell had rung, toward the fog. I stepped forward and grabbed his sleeve. Sims, don't. He pulled his arm back, but I didn't let go. There's a kid, Sims said. His voice was tight now. You want to sit here and read a card while someone's dog is lost and a child is crying? I said Cynthia reported Metcalf Bottoms. That's miles from here. It doesn't make sense. Sound travels, Sims said, and we're closer than anyone else. The bell rang again. Same direction, same tone. Sims shook his arm free and stepped off the path, into the fog, into the copper smell. I stood there, duty belt digging into my hips, radio still crackling faintly with static. He was 3 steps in when he looked back. You coming? Or are you staying here? I didn't answer. Sims turned and kept walking. The fog swallowed him in seconds. I could hear his boots on the leaves, then I couldn't. I didn't follow him. I stood there on the path with the fog pressing in and the copper smell getting stronger and listened to Sims's boots crunch through leaves for maybe 10 seconds. Then the sound stopped. Just stopped. No branches breaking, no rustling. Nothing. I turned around and ran. Didn't jog. Didn't walk fast. I ran back down that trail with my flashlight bouncing and my radio slapping against my hip and my breath coming hard. The fog stayed thick, but I kept my eyes on the path, on the roots and the dirt and the places I could see. Didn't look into the trees. Didn't stop when I heard the bell ring again behind me, fainter this time. I got back to the truck in maybe 15 minutes. My hand shook when I pulled the door open. I sat in the driver's seat and locked the doors and turned the engine on and sat there with the headlights cutting through the fog at the empty posts where the sign had been. I didn't have my phone, left it back at the barracks. The radio was still crackling with static and I didn't trust it. I put the truck in reverse and backed out onto the service road and drove toward Little River Road faster than I should have. When I hit pavement, I turned toward Sugarlands and pressed the gas harder. The station was lit up when I got there. I parked crooked and went in through the ranger door. Lillian was still at the desk with the same paperwork spread out. She looked up when I came in and her expression didn't change, but her hand stopped moving on the pen. "Where's Sims?" she said. I told her. The bell. The fog that smelled like pennies. The radio call about the dog. Sims stepping off the trail and disappearing into the fog. I told her I waited maybe 30 seconds, and then I ran. She didn't ask why I didn't follow him. She just stood up and grabbed her jacket off the back of the chair and told me to wait there. She went into the dispatch room, and I heard her talking low and fast. 2 minutes later, she came back out and told me to get in my truck and meet her at the West Prong access in 20 minutes. She was bringing Melody Stevens, the district EMT. I asked if she was calling County Search and Rescue. She said no, not yet. She said if Sims was just turned around, they'd find him fast, and if he wasn't, County wouldn't help anyway. I didn't ask what she meant by that. Lillian showed up in her patrol truck with Melody in the passenger seat. Melody had a medical kit slung across her body and a radio clipped to her belt. She nodded at me when she got out, but didn't say anything. Lillian handed me a whistle on a lanyard and told me to put it on. She had one too. Melody had her own. We started up the trail with flashlights. Lillian took point. I stayed in the middle. Melody brought up the rear. The fog was still there, but thinner now, patchy instead of solid. The copper smell was gone. Everything just smelled like wet leaves and bark again. Lillian called Sims's name every 50 feet or so. We'd stop and blow the whistles in 3 short bursts and then wait and listen. Nothing came back. We stayed on the trail. Lillian made that clear before we started. She said we were doing a marked route search only, and nobody was stepping off the path for any reason. Melody didn't argue, and neither did I. We passed the spot where the cairn had been. I stopped and pointed my flashlight at it. The 4 stones Sims had moved were still sitting on the ground a few feet away. The single stone I'd left was still standing. But there were boot prints in the dirt around it now. I called Lillian back. She came over and crouched down next to the prints with her flashlight angled low. Melody stood behind us with her light on the surrounding brush. The prints were fresh, deep treads, Sims's boots. They came from the direction of the trail and walked straight toward the stones. Then they circled the cairn once, a full loop, the prints overlapping in places. Then they walked up to the single stone and stopped. Just stopped. No prints leading away, no scuff marks, no sign he'd turned around or backtracked or stepped off in another direction. The last clear print was right next to the stone. The toe pointed at it. And after that, there was nothing. Lillian stood up and swept her flashlight across the area in a slow arc. She didn't say anything for a long time. Melody asked if we should mark it. Lillian said no. She said we keep moving and finish the sweep. We hiked another half-mile and found nothing. No more prints, no gear, no sign of Sims. We turned around and walked back to the trucks as the sky started going gray with early light. The fog was gone by then. Everything looked normal. Just a low-traffic trail with wet leaves and quiet trees. Lillian told me to go back to the barracks and get some sleep. She said if Sims didn't turn up by noon, she'd escalate it. Melody got back in Lillian's truck and they drove off together. I sat in my truck for a while with the engine off and watched the empty posts and thought about those boot prints stopping at the stone. Then I drove back to Sugarlands and went to bed. I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling and listening to my roommate's empty bunk creak whenever the building settled. Around 10, I got up and made coffee and sat in the break room with the procedures binder open in front of me, but I wasn't reading it. Sims walked in at 11:43. I looked up and he was just there, standing in the doorway in his full uniform with his boots laced and his duty belt on and his hair combed. He looked clean, dry. Not a speck of mud on him, not a leaf, nothing. He nodded at me and walked past to Lillian's desk and set down a piece of paper. I stood up. My chair scraped loud against the floor. Lillian came out of the dispatch room and stopped when she saw him. Her face didn't move, but her hand went to her radio for half a second before she caught herself. "Sims," she said. "Ma'am," he said. He tapped the paper on the desk. "Incident report. Got turned around last night after Gibson headed back. Slept in my truck at a pullout off Tremont Road. Just woke up about an hour ago." Lillian picked up the paper. I stepped closer and looked over her shoulder. It was typed. Full incident report format. Date, time, location, narrative summary, all of it. Clean margins, no typos. Formatted like it came out of a template. Lillian looked at Sims. "You filed this from your truck?" "No, ma'am. Typed it up just now in the barracks. Brought my laptop." She set the paper down. "You got separated from Gibson at approximately 19:30 hours. You're filing this 12 hours later." "Yes, ma'am. I know it's late. I apologize." She didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she told him to sit down and wait. Sims sat in the chair by the wall. I stayed standing. Lillian went back into dispatch and I heard her talking low on the phone. When she came out, she had Melody with her. Melody set her kit on the desk and told Sims she needed to do a quick check. He didn't argue. She took his pulse at the wrist, counted silently, then pressed 2 fingers to his neck and counted again. She pulled a pen light from her kit and checked his eyes. Then she pressed the back of her hand to his forehead and frowned. "You feel cold?" she asked. "No, ma'am." She touched his neck again, then his wrist. She pulled a thermometer from the kit and told him to open his mouth. He did. She waited for the beep and looked at the reading. 97.1, she said. Lillian asked if that was normal. Melody said it was low, but not dangerous. She asked Sims if he felt dizzy or nauseous or confused. He said no to all three. She packed up her kit and told Lillian his vitals were stable. Lillian thanked her. Melody left. Lillian looked at Sims for a long time. Then she picked up the incident report and put it in a folder. "You're cleared for duty," she said. "Take today off. Report tomorrow at 0600 for assignment." Sims stood up. "Yes, ma'am." He walked out. I stared at Lillian. She didn't look at me. "That's it?" I said. She filed the folder and sat down at her desk. "That's it." He disappeared into the fog. His footprints stopped at that stone. There was nothing after that. She opened a drawer and pulled out a different folder. Started looking through it. "I know," she said. "So how is he here? How is he clean and dry and filing reports like nothing happened?" She didn't answer. Just kept looking at the papers in the folder. I stepped closer to the desk. "Lillian," she closed the folder and looked up at me. Her face was calm, but her jaw was tight. "Come outside," she said. We went out the side door into the parking lot. The sun was high and bright and everything looked normal. A couple of tourists were taking pictures by the visitor center. A family was loading into a minivan. Lillian walked to the far edge of the lot where the pavement met the grass. I followed. She stopped and turned around and looked at me. "We can't afford to lose another ranger," she said. I asked what she meant by another. She didn't answer that. She just kept talking. "Sims is here. He's functional. His vitals are stable. He filed a report. If I put him on leave or send him for evaluation, I lose a body on rotation and we're already running short." "He came back wrong," I said. "Maybe. His skin was cold, you heard Melody. Low temperature isn't disqualifying." I stared at her. "You're just going to pretend this didn't happen." "No," she said. "I'm going to treat him as functional and keep operations moving. That's my job. What if he's not safe? Then you follow procedure. You report anything unusual. You document everything. But unless he violates policy or becomes a danger, he stays on duty." I didn't say anything. She looked at me for a long time. "This isn't the first time something like this has happened. It won't be the last. You do your job. You follow the rules. You stay smart. That's how you survive here. And I just work next to him like everything's fine. Yes. Even though he's not the same." She didn't answer. She just turned and walked back toward the building. I stood there in the parking lot with the sun on my face and the sound of tourists laughing somewhere behind me and thought about Sims's boot prints stopping at the stone. Then I went back inside. I woke up tasting pennies. That was the first thing. Not a noise, or a light, or anything normal. Just that sharp metallic taste coating my tongue like I'd been sucking on old batteries. I sat up in the dark, and my mouth was full of it. The clock on my phone read 11:11. I heard the bell. It was inside the room. Not outside the window or down the hall or anywhere that made sense. It was right there in the bunk room with me, clear and close, the same handbell I'd heard on West Prong Trail. One clean ring that hung in the air for too long. My radio was on the desk. I'd left it turned off. The power dial was still in the off position. It clicked on anyway. Static first, then the squelch break, then Sims's voice, calm and professional, coming through channel 3. "Gibson, this is Sims. Lillian needs you at Metcalf Bottoms. She's asking for you, specifically. If you answer now, this settles what started. Acknowledge." I didn't move. The metallic taste got worse. My mouth felt like I'd bitten through aluminum foil. Gibson. Acknowledge. One response settles it. That's all she needs. I got out of bed. My boots were already on. I didn't remember putting them on, but they were laced tight and double knotted. I grabbed the radio, carried it to my locker, shoved it inside, and slammed the metal door. The voice kept talking, muffled now, but still clear enough. You already know where she is. You've always known. I locked the locker with the combination lock I'd bought at Walmart my second day. 3 turns and it clicked. The voice cut off mid-sentence. I stood there breathing hard with my hand still on the lock. The river stone was in my left cargo pocket. I'd kept it after the search. Didn't really think about why. Just pocketed it when nobody was looking and brought it back to the barracks. It was smooth and cold and about the size of a roll of quarters. I grabbed my wallet, my keys, my jacket, left the radio locked up, left my phone on the bed because I didn't trust it either. The hallway was empty, no lights on in any of the other rooms. I walked fast and didn't look back. Outside, the parking lot was quiet. My truck started on the first try. I drove out of Sugarlands with the windows down and the heater off, letting cold air blow the taste out of my mouth. It didn't work. The Shell station on Airport Road was the only place I could think of. 24 hours, cameras, fluorescent lights, another person, staffed and documented. I pulled in at 11:23 and parked under the brightest light in the lot. There was a note taped to the front door. It was on the same kind of index card as the rules. Same handwriting as the trail sign. My handwriting. It said, "You're already late." I stopped with my hand on the door handle. The card was taped at eye level with clear packing tape, the edges starting to curl. Fresh. It hadn't been there long. I pulled the door open anyway. Kathleen was behind the counter. I'd seen her before on my first trip into town. Blonde hair and a messy bun, nose stud, shell polo with a name tag. She looked up when I walked in and her expression tightened just a little. Not scared, wary. "Hey," I said. She nodded. Didn't say anything. I walked toward the back where the coolers were, grabbed a Gatorade I didn't want. The bell sound started again. Not outside, not from the door. It was inside the store, moving. I heard it by the chip aisle, then near the front counter, then by the coffee station in the corner. It slid around the room like it was on a track, never staying in one place, always just out of sight. Kathleen heard it too. Her eyes tracked the sound every time it rang. "You hear that?" I asked. "Yeah." "You know what it is?" "No." She didn't ask me to leave, didn't call anyone, just stood there with her hand near the phone and watched me. I stayed in the back of the store near the coolers and kept my eyes on the front door. The Gatorade was sweating in my hand. I didn't open it. The clock on the wall said 11:10. At 11:11 exactly, the radio behind the counter turned to static. Kathleen's hand went to it, but she didn't touch the dial. The static got louder. Then channel 3 bled through, Sims's voice cutting in and out under the hiss. "Metcalf Bottoms. Lillian's trapped. One response pulls her out." The front door opened. Sims walked in. He looked exactly the same as he had that morning. Clean uniform, laced boots, combed hair, nothing on him. He walked like he'd just come from a briefing. He was holding Lillian's badge, not his own. Hers. I recognized the number stamped on the brass. She'd had it clipped to her belt every time I'd seen her. Sims stopped 3 feet inside the door and looked at me. His face was calm, no expression, just steady and waiting. "She's at Metcalf Bottoms," he said, "kneeling in the fog. She can't get out on her own. One response from you and it pulls her free." I didn't answer. Kathleen was pressed against the back wall behind the counter, phone in her hand now, but not dialing. "You already broke the sequence," Sims said. "The cairn, The fog. The bell. You stopped it partway and now it's stuck. Lillian's stuck. If you don't finish it, she stays there. Where'd you get her badge? I asked. She dropped it when she went in. Went in where? The fog. The Riverstone was still in my pocket. I could feel its weight pulling the fabric down. One answer on Channel 3, Sims said. That's all it takes. Then she walks out and this ends. What happens to you? I'm already done. He said it flat. No emotion, like he was reporting the weather. I didn't ask what he meant. I walked past him, shoulder brushing his, and pushed through the front door. The note was still taped there. I ripped it down and crumpled it in my fist. Sims followed me to the parking lot but didn't try to stop me. He just stood under the light holding Lillian's badge and watching. I got in my truck, locked the doors, and drove. Metcalf Bottoms was 15 minutes west on Little River Road. I knew the route by heart now. I drove it with both hands on the wheel and the Riverstone sitting on the passenger seat where I could see it. The parking lot was empty when I pulled in. No ranger trucks, no Lillian. Just gravel and the low wood fence that marked the trailhead. The fog was already there. It started at the tree line, thick and motionless, the same unnatural stillness I'd seen on West Prong Trail. I could smell the copper before I even got out of the truck. The stone cairn was 10 feet past the fence. 5 white stones stacked clean and dry. They hadn't been there 3 days ago. I'd walked this loop twice on patrol, and there'd been nothing. I grabbed the Riverstone from the passenger seat and got out. The fog didn't move. It just sat there between the trees, waiting. I walked toward the cairn and stopped 2 feet away. The copper smell was so strong I could taste it again, sharp and bitter on the back of my tongue. Lillian was inside the fog. I saw her kneeling about 20 feet in, her back to me, head down. She wasn't moving, wasn't making noise, just kneeling there on the wet ground with her hands flat on her thighs. I didn't call her name. The radio on my belt crackled. I'd grabbed my spare from the truck. Channel 3 came through without me touching the dial. Say your name, Sims's voice said. That's all. She needs to hear you confirm. I pulled the radio off my belt and keyed it. This is Unit 227, I said. Badge number. Not my name. The fog rippled. I dropped to one knee, grabbed the bottom stone from the cairn, and shoved the Riverstone into the empty space where it had been. The fog snapped inward. Not slowly, not like wind blowing it away. It collapsed straight down like water going down a drain, pulling everything with it. Sims appeared at the edge of the lot. He'd been standing behind my truck. Now he was stumbling forward, boots dragging through gravel, arms out like he was trying to catch himself. He got yanked hard. His whole body jerked forward and slammed face down into the river gravel where the fog had been. He didn't get up. He didn't move. I watched him collapse inward. Not like a body falling, like he was being pressed flat. His uniform folded in on itself and his boots sank into the stones, and within 3 seconds there was nothing left but wet gravel and silt. Lillian crawled out of the tree line on her hands and knees, coughing. Water poured out of her mouth. River water. She coughed it up in thick streams, gasping between each one, her hands sinking into the mud. I ran over and grabbed her shoulder. She didn't look up, just kept coughing. Lillian. She nodded, coughed again, spat onto the gravel. Her badge was gone. Duty belt still on, but the brass clip was empty. Melody's truck pulled into the lot 6 minutes later. She parked fast and got out with her med kit already in hand. I lost your signal, she said. The second you keyed the radio, everything went dead. What happened? I didn't answer. I was still kneeling next to Lillian, one hand on her back while she breathed. Melody crouched and checked Lillian's pulse, her airway, her pupils, asked her questions in that calm, clinical voice. Lillian answered in short bursts between breaths. Melody looked at me. "Where's Sims?" I pointed to the gravel. There was a damp impression in the stones, roughly body-shaped. Disturbed gravel all around it like something had been dragged. No boots, no gear, no sign of him. Melody stood and walked over with her flashlight. She crouched and touched the gravel with 2 fingers, then pulled her hand back. "It's cold," she said. "Yeah. Where'd he go?" "I don't know." She looked at me for a long time. Then she looked at Lillian, then back at the gravel. "Okay," she said. That was it. She didn't push. She helped Lillian to her feet and walked her to the truck. Lillian filed Sims as a resignation the next morning, typed it up herself, effective immediately, no forwarding address. She sent it to district, and they accepted it without questions. She ordered all the handheld radios reprogrammed to skip Channel 3 entirely. Took 2 days. Maintenance pulled every unit and flashed the firmware. When they came back, the channel was just gone. The dial jumped from 2 to 4. She tightened the schedule so fewer rangers worked alone. Paired shifts wherever possible. Adjusted patrol routes to keep people closer to the station. I put in for a transfer to New River Gorge in West Virginia. Submitted the request form the same week. Lillian signed it without asking why. I kept the Riverstone on my dashboard, right there in the center where I could see it every time I looked up. It stayed there until the day I drove out of the Smokies. That was it.